You ever do something good for everyone, and somehow, it turns around and bites you? Yeah, that's what happened when I decided to pave the dusty old road leading to my farm. For years, the dirt path to my property was a nightmare. Every time it rained, it turned into a mudslide. Delivery trucks got stuck, my tires were constantly caked in dirt, and even my neighbors hated driving through it. So, being the good guy, I paid out of pocket to have it professionally paved. Cost me nearly $22,000, but it was worth it, smooth, clean, and easy to drive on. For a while, everyone was happy. The mail carrier thanked me. The neighbors waved as they passed by. Even folks from the nearby HOA community started using it to cut through to the main road. I didn't mind, after all, it was just a road, right? Wrong. That road became the spark that lit an HOA-sized firestorm. About 2 months later, I noticed a shiny metal gate being installed right across my road. Big iron bars, keypad entry, private property, HOA members only plastered on a brand new sign. At first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe some kind of mix-up. But when I tried to drive through, a woman in a neon vest walked up and said, "Sorry, sir. This road is now private HOA access. Residents only." I laughed. Residents only? Lady, I am the resident. That's my farm down that road. And this is my pavement. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "The board voted. This road connects to our neighborhood, so it falls under HOA management now. You'll need to contact the president if you want access." I swear, I thought she was pranking me. But sure enough, they'd built a gate with a lock, keypad, and even surveillance cameras, completely blocking me from my own land. So, I drove around through the back trail, a bumpy mess of rock and weeds, just to get to my own property. I was furious. That night, I pulled out the original land deed. Guess what? The road, every inch of it, was built entirely on my land. The HOA's border stopped 50 yards short of it. They had no legal right to touch it. So, I did what any rational person would do. I called the HOA president. Her name was Karen, of course. Mid-50s, tone sharper than barbed wire. I tried to stay calm. "Karen, I think there's been a mistake. That road you gated off, it's actually on my property. I paved it myself. You guys need to remove that gate." Her voice was icy. "Actually, Mr. Miller, the board decided that road provides necessary community access. We've assumed responsibility for its maintenance and safety. You should be thanking us." Thanking them? For stealing my road? I told her flat out. "Karen, you've made a big mistake. If that gate isn't gone in 48 hours, I'm taking legal action." She laughed, like full-on laughed in my ear. "You can't sue the HOA, Mr. Miller. The bylaws are clear." That was the last straw. I wasn't just going to sue. I was going to make them regret ever touching my road. The next morning, I drove down with my pickup, parked by the gate, and started digging up the asphalt around the fence posts. Within minutes, 2 HOA board members came running over, phones out, shouting about vandalism and property destruction. I looked at them and said, "You're right. I'm destroying my own property. You might want to move your fancy gate before I do the same to it." They called the cops. Good. I wanted them to. When the officer arrived, they started rattling off about how I illegally interfered with HOA property. The officer turned to me, and I handed him my property deed, road construction receipt, and a map from the county surveyor's office. He looked at Karen and her crew, then said, "Ma'am, this road isn't HOA property. It's Mr. Miller's land. You can't build anything on it without his permission." The look on her face could have curdled milk. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. "We'll take this to court. The HOA has rights to any access point connected to our subdivision." Fine. I love court. But before she could even file a complaint, I decided to hit her where it hurt. That night, I hired a local contractor to install my own gate right in front of theirs. A big steel one, heavy duty, with a lock that only I had the key to. The next morning, HOA residents were lined up, honking and yelling because they couldn't get through. They had gated themselves out. Karen stormed up, fuming. "You can't do this. You're blocking our access." I just smiled. "You mean the access road that's on my land? You can't have it both ways, Karen." She called the cops again. Same officers showed up. Same deed. Same outcome. He shrugged and said, "It's his property, ma'am. He can do whatever he wants with it." By that evening, HOA members were scrambling. They couldn't get their Amazon deliveries. Trash trucks were turning around. The once proud exclusive neighborhood was trapped behind its own arrogance. And the best part? I didn't remove my gate. I just put a sign on it that said, "Private property, owner access only." The HOA thought they owned my road. But soon, they were going to learn just how bad it was to mess with the man who built it. For a few days, things stayed quiet. Too quiet. My new gate stood tall, solid steel, padlocked, and proudly marked private property. The HOA couldn't touch it, but I knew Karen wasn't done. That woman treated rules like weapons, and I could almost hear her plotting from across the field. Sure enough, on the fourth morning, I woke up to find a certified letter taped to my gate. It read, "Notice of violation, unauthorized obstruction of community access. Failure to comply will result in legal action and fines." Fines? From them? I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. They were trying to fine me for blocking my own road. So, I decided to fight fire with fire. I called my attorney, Mr. Hughes, a no-nonsense guy who'd handled property disputes for decades. I handed him every document I had, the road construction invoice, land survey maps, photos, even drone footage showing exactly where the property lines were. He smirked and said, "They've got no case. You've got the deed, the receipts, and the right to control your land. But, if you want to have some fun, we can make this hurt a little." I like that idea. A lot. We filed a cease and desist order against the HOA for trespassing, unauthorized construction, and property damage. Then, we billed them for the removal costs of the illegal gate they'd installed, plus damages for blocking my access for 2 weeks. Within days, Karen and her HOA board were losing it. Their legal budget wasn't built for this kind of fight. But instead of backing down, Karen went nuclear. She called an emergency meeting with her HOA members, claiming I was endangering the neighborhood. I know because one of the residents, Paul, secretly recorded it and sent it to me. In the video, Karen was ranting. "He thinks he owns everything. We'll take him to court and get that road declared part of our subdivision." You could hear people murmuring. One woman asked, "But, doesn't he literally own the land it's on?" Karen's response? "Ownership is a gray area when it comes to community needs." Gray area, my foot. The next week, we went to court. Karen strutted in with her folder of HOA paperwork, acting like she was about to conquer the world. I sat quietly, waiting for my turn. When the judge called the case, my lawyer stood up and dropped a thick binder on the table. Inside were maps, county permits, satellite photos, and official tax records. Everything proved one simple fact: the HOA's gate sat squarely on my private property. Karen's face went pale. She started stammering about community necessity, shared infrastructure, and neighborhood security. The judge stopped her mid-sentence and said, "Ma'am, this is not community property. It's private land. You have no jurisdiction here." Then he looked directly at me. "Mr. Miller, would you like to request damages?" You bet I did. We demanded compensation for land intrusion, emotional distress, and repair costs, plus attorney's fees. When the total was read aloud, you could see the color drain from Karen's face, $38,000. The judge ruled in my favor on every count. The HOA was ordered to remove their gate within 10 days and pay up. But that wasn't the end. Oh no. A week later, when the HOA's construction crew showed up to take the gate down, they realized something: they couldn't even reach it. Because my newer gate stood in front of it, locked tight. They had to call me for permission to access it. Karen's voice was practically trembling when she said, "We need to take down the old gate. The court order says we must comply." I paused for a moment, then said, "Sure thing. You can come remove it anytime, once the payment clears." She screamed something about legal extortion and hung up. But the next morning, my lawyer confirmed it: the HOA's check had been processed. So, I drove down, unlocked my gate, and watched as their workers dismantled every last bolt of their private property sign. When they finished, I told the crew, "Leave the posts. I'll use them for my mailbox." They didn't laugh. But I sure did. Word spread fast through the neighborhood. Karen's reputation tanked. People started questioning the HOA board, demanding transparency. Within a month, she was voted out as president. And me? I decided to have a little fun. I kept my gate up, but this time, I installed a remote keypad, one that only opened for me and the local delivery drivers. If any HOA member tried to use the road, the gate stayed shut. One day, Paul, the guy who leaked the meeting recording, came by and asked if I'd ever let them use the road again. I smiled and said, "Maybe. But from now on, if they want access, they'll have to sign a lease. My land, my rules." He laughed and said, "You really showed them who owns the road." I nodded. "Yep. And the key." From then on, every time I drove through that gate, I couldn't help but grin. The HOA had tried to claim what wasn't theirs, tried to bully me into submission, but in the end, all they did was lock themselves out of their own comfort zone. The best part? A few months later, the county decided to expand the main road nearby. They needed a direct route to connect the highway, and guess which private road they offered to buy the easement for? Mine. I sold them access rights for $60,000 and still kept ownership of the land beneath it. So now, every time HOA residents drive past my gate and see the private road, access by owner permission only sign, they remember exactly what happens when you mess with the wrong farmer. Because when it comes to this road, I own the land, I own the pavement, and I own the key.